Hi guys, welcome to the video. In this one I'm going to be detailing our Audi A4 Avant. Whilst these before shots are going on, I thought I'd give you some history of this car. This car was originally my mother's around 10 years ago. We sold it to somebody who subsequently had a collision in it, and then we bought it back from them a few years later. So we started to use it as a garage vehicle. We throw engines, gearboxes, wheels, everything in the back of this car. We use it a bit like a small van, which is why it is in the state that it currently is. So what I'm hoping to do is turn that around over the course of this video, so stay tuned to see the outcome. So getting started with this detail, I normally start a detail off by rinsing the surface of the car. Unfortunately, during the filming of this, I kept having problems with the wind blowing spray from the jet wash into the lens of the camera. So I do wipe this off after every clip, and it's not on every single one, it's on only a couple of them. So I apologise for this, but it's something that I would have rather have not happened, but unfortunately I cannot control the weather. So with the initial rinse done, it was time to move on to snow foam in the car. The snow foam I'm using here is Built Hamber's Auto Foam. I find that this is a good foam because of its anti-corrosion properties. It's something that I quite like, having a lot of rusty old cars. And yeah, I think that's a good property to have in a snow foam. It's not the thickest of snow foams, but I mean, I'd rather have a snow foam that's actually good at cleaning the car than looks pretty. Car coated in foam, it was time to work my way around the emblems with a soft brush just to bring out any dirt in those spots, because you can't really get it with a sponge. And also I work my way around the front grille, and I also do the petrol cap at this time. Unfortunately, this is about where it started to rain on me quite heavily, so I quickly washed the car off and brought it inside so it wasn't getting rained on. to detail your car, isn't it? Starts raining. Well, I'm just going to hope that the rain stops soon and then get back out there and actually start contact washing this. So eventually the weather did dry up a bit and I was able to go back outside. Here I've moved on to doing the wheels. These wheels had incredibly stubborn baked on brake dust all over them, so this was quite difficult to remove. I had to go around after this with some clay, and even that didn't bring it completely up, especially on the rear right wheel. I think that may have had some problems with a brake sticking to cause the amount of brake dust that has got embedded into it, so that's going to be a difficult one to remove, and I will do that later in the video. So with the wheels done then, it was time to move on to contact washing the car. So for door shuts, I don't normally pressure wash these. I normally use some ABC, spray it down, work it in, and then wipe off with a damp microfiber towel. I normally find that gives a good finish, but I decided for this one that I would try using the jet wash, and I'm pleasantly surprised at the fact that I didn't manage to completely soak the interior, only slightly. So with the contact wash done, it was time to rinse all of the remaining foam off and then dry the car. So with the exterior all done for now then, it was time for me to move on to the interior. I started off by removing any loose rubbish. This was some of the paper in the boot and various things in the door pockets, etc. And then once I'd done that, I moved on to hoovering the car. In my last video, I had very poor view retention time around the hoovering kind of sections. So what I've done in this one is sped up the hoovering quite a lot. So it's now at 1500% playback speed, so that should make it a little bit quicker and more satisfying to watch. I've included a bit more hoovering in this one, even though it actually spans a shorter amount of time in total. So here I remove these dirty floor mats. What I do with the floor mats normally is I normally wipe them off to remove any loose debris, but for the purpose of this video, for the rest of the floor mats, I won't be doing that. I'll just be hoovering them because I think it'd probably be more satisfying for you as a viewer to watch it get hoovered up rather than me just brush it into a bin. So then I move on to actually extracting these. I spray them down with the carpet cleaner, and I also then move on to the drill brush, and then I start with the extraction. So with the floor mats all done, then I continue to hoover the interior. I haven't shown much of the seat hoovering here because they weren't that dirty, and I don't think that would be that satisfying, but the floor hoovering I've filmed most of the sections of. So with the interior all hoovered out now, it's time for me to move on to cleaning the plastics. I first started with the trims around the doors. These actually came up quite nicely in my opinion, and then I moved on to the glove box. The glove box I was quite worried about because I was pretty sure that the majority of the marks on this are actually damage and scratches into it and scuffs and stuff, so I was quite pleasantly surprised with the way that this came out after, you know, APCing and using a magic eraser, and I think this came out quite well. I'm going to use that method for the rest of the car, but unfortunately quite a lot of the interior is still damaged, so that's not going to come out quite as well as the glove box has. So with all the interior plastics clean now, then I move on to wiping them down with a trim dressing. With this car, because of all the damage, I decided not to buff this off on most of the places. The only place I actually buffed off was the top of the dash to reduce any glare on the screen. That's because I feel that this dressing helps hide quite a few of the imperfections. So with the interior done, I moved on to the exterior polished sort of trim. I noticed that this had quite a lot of water spotting on it, so I used some Autosol metal polish to try and move some of this, and whilst it didn't give an absolutely perfect finish, it did bring the metal up quite well, so I was happy with this and decided to do it on the rest of the car. I sprayed a tyre and glue remover on the bottom part of the car. This helps sort of bleed the tar from the paintwork, and I had quite a stubborn tar spot there, so I came back through it a little bit later and with a bit more tyre and glue remover and managed to get this off. Continuing with the exterior decontamination, I continued to clay the rest of the car. So you may have seen from the before shots that there was this strange kind of paint cracking effect on the front wing and the boot lid. I decided that to combat this I would wet sand and then polish this area. It didn't come out perfect, it didn't get rid of all of it, but it did improve the appearance quite a lot. I believe that some of this paint cracking effect was actually underneath the paint after a bit of like inspection with feeling it and stuff like that, so I'm not entirely sure what that is, but I think these panels have been repainted in the past, so it may be something to do with that. So whilst I had the polisher out then, I decided to do the rest of the car. There's a small bit of paint transfer on the front bumper, and I got this off using IPA, and then I proceeded to polish the area. So I decided to move on to polishing the rest of the car. One of the big problem areas on this car was the tops of the doors. I don't know if it's where the sun's caught it or something, but there's quite a lot of paint sort of marring along there. So I polished all these up, and I also polished the rear quarters as well. So then it was time to move on to this very stubborn brake dust on this rear wheel. So I decided to clay this. The clay brought some of it off, but not all of it, and then I moved on to the metal polish, and I used the metal polish quite a few times, and the finish that I got in the end I wasn't entirely happy with, but it was a heck of a lot better than what it was like originally. So now I move on to waxing the car. Before doing that, I wipe the whole car down with an IPA to get rid of any polish residue, because I've had some strange reactions between polish and wax before, and then I move on to waxing the car. So here I tried to do a bit of a funny shot where it was me on both sides of the car, buffing the bonnet, but it didn't really come out all that well, but I thought I'd leave it in anyway because it's a little bit of fun. So with the outside of the car all waxed now, I moved on to the tyres. I dressed these with a tyre gel. I use Autoglim's high performance tyre gel. I feel this is a very good long lasting tyre gel and it gives a good shine. After that then I moved on to cleaning the windows. So just before I was about to do the aftershots, I realised I hadn't even touched this rear boot liner, so I hoovered this and I brought it outside, sprayed it with some APC and cleaned it off. So I left this to dry for a little bit and then I put it back in the car along with the floor mats, and then that was the car done and it was time to show you the aftershots. So I hope you've enjoyed the video and seeing the transformation on this car. In future I think we are going to get a rear bumper for this car because it has actually come up quite nicely, and I think it would look very presentable with just a rear bumper replacement. So that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please if you have, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.